On this episode of The Lost Years Part 2, we are going to talk about music, the gigs, and the memories that I've had over my lost years with music. I hope you enjoy it. Hey folks, welcome back to the Rajiv Show, and I'm your host Rajiv Doreswamy. This show aims to help you reach out to those who are currently struggling in life and to remind you that life is indeed beautiful when you are inspired to make it your own. Welcome back to season 2, Life in India. This is The Lost Years, part 2, episode number 7, Music, Life, and Gigs. This is for all the musicians out there. Before we begin, I would like to remind you to tune in every Wednesday for fresh new episodes from yours truly. If you're watching this from YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Give it some love. And switch on the notification bell for further updates. And don't forget to send in that tiny love tap to that follow button if you're listening to the show via Spotify. The best part of growing up in a musical family is the ability to learn music at home. This episode was suggested by my father, and I was reminded about all the amazing memories that we've had over the course of my lost years. The first story I'm going to tell you, folks, is my trip to Pondicherry. And before I start, of course, a small background on where Pondicherry is. Pondicherry is a French colonial settlement in India until 1954, and it's now a union territory bounded by the southeastern Tamil Nadu state. It's influenced by the French, and there's a lot of beautiful French views. And the most beautiful thing about Pondicherry is it's located near the Bay of Bengal, so that beautiful sea is amazing. I have a photo that I'll be posting on YouTube where I'm staring at, of course, the Bay of Bengal. So the band decided to take a trip to Pondicherry, and of course the band I mean by the band is of course Greenwich Reflection. The members, of course, my dad on the bass and on vocals, Anand on drums, Vinish on electric guitar lead, and of course Elish, my brother from another mother. So I was an additional dude who was, of course, the roadie, as they say. During the journey to Pondicherry, there was one memory that I remember where in the highway we were looking for a gas station, and then we decided to uh, to take a road that was only traveled by a motorcycle, because the opposite at the end of that road was of course the gas station. So when we were heading into this area, you could see in both right and left are um the ground is dug to the point that you could literally see Satan waving back at you, and that's how deep it is. And it was scary for all of us because we were looking at both ends because we didn't want to make sure the car hit anything. And surprisingly, we survived. Even the vehicles behind us were wondering how the hell did we get through. And then we arrived Pondicherry, and that evening, of course, was the gig. Greenwich Reflection normally plays reggae music, Bob Marley music, and of course, had a good time. The location was facing the ocean, but it was during the nighttime, so we didn't really enjoy much of the view. Until the next day, of course, when we were gonna go back to Bangalore, I got to see the Bay of Bengal, and it was a Sunday, I think. Yeah, it was a Sunday. And heading back from Pondicherry, the night during that night, another memory just hit me just now, was the trip heading back home. It was raining, and the highway that we took was so muddy to the point that uh, anyone that would come to us on the opposing end would splatter water towards our windshield. It was interesting. Yeah, it was interesting that night. There was no uh, street lights. It was purely dark, and of course, it was a tiring journey. My father, on the other hand, what a legend! He managed to get us back home. And of course, the second memory that I remember is, of course, my first performance with Freedom Jam. With sorry, not Freedom Jam. Freedom Jam was the event, and this time I was performing with Greenwich Reflection. Of course, the band. We had Dad on bass and vocals, me on electric guitar. We had Anand on drums, and of course Ashwin on keyboard. Elish at that time was not around, and it was the event, I think, was on Independence Day or somewhere around the Independence Day. It was a cultural event where a lot of these local bands in Bangalore get together and then perform. I remember during that time there were heavy metal bands, there were reggae bands, there were blues bands. Oh man, every band that it was amazing. And the beautiful thing about Freedom Jam is anyone could actually come and watch the show, and it was live. There were no tickets and everything. And when we were setting up our gear and everything, on the corner where my dad was, some few folks requested my dad to play some Bob Marley, and it so happened that, of course, my dad played Bob Marley, and we did a successful. I don't remember how many songs we played, but I do remember we played Get Up, Stand Up. Uh, some of the songs I don't remember, but it was mostly Bob Marley stuff, and yeah, it was an amazing performance. So those were the two memories that I have from my musical side of my lost years. And playing music, a small life lesson that I want to share is that music is life. Growing up in music is one way of expressing life. It doesn't matter what genre you play or who you are as a musician. It's unexplainable. It's a phenomenal feeling to create music and to get it out there. And a handful of people will get you there, especially if you have a musical family like me. And some few folks who are into music. Music does change lives, and music is a phenomenal language for everyone. And I also want to plug life lessons that I've learned in music. If you haven't checked this out, this is in my blog. Head over to my blog at rajivdoreswamy.blogspot.com. Anyway, those are my few words and experiences. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'll see you in the next. Cheers. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to check out an amazing collection of podcasters from the Philippines by following the Philippine Podcast Directory on Facebook. You can help support our directory by using the hashtag Philippine Podcast Directory, and I will see you in the next episode. Cheers.